We told you earlier about how Donald Trump hosted the right-wing president of Argentina at the White House to discuss a $20 billion U.S. bailout to that country amidst a growing farm crisis here at home. And so the Democratic National Committee released a new ad about how Trump's trade war is hurting farmers.
I got to farm with my dad every day. It's a wonderful way of life, and it's at risk, and it shouldn't be. My name is John Bartman. You're at Bartman Farm in Marengo, Illinois. Farming's hard enough as it is this year, especially because of the tariffs that have been put upon us. This is really putting a major strain on all farmers right now. We don't want a bailout. We want a market. Bailouts are Band-Aids. What he is doing is destroying our markets. And when those markets disappear, we're not going to get them back.
Minnesota Democratic Governor Tim Walz is meeting with soybean farmers in his state tomorrow, and he joins me now. Governor, it's good to have you, and I know this is an issue close to you. You grew up in a farming community. I know that Minnesota actually produces a ton of soybeans, exports a ton to China. How bad is the crunch right now for those farmers?
Yeah, bad, Chris. And as Mr. Bartman on there said it, Illinois is our leading producer, but Minnesota's a top 4 state. Look, every 2 out of 3 rows of soybeans we do export markets, and China is a major buyer of those. Last year they bought $12 billion from us. This year they're buying 0. And this is a man-made crisis. The farm crisis, I think it rivals the 1980s. We had the Farm Aid concert out here with Willie Nelson, and they said it's the worst it's been in 40 years. And this is Donald Trump's tariffs. These are adding, as the price is collapsing, as costs of inputs have gone up. And I think for the average person out there listening, this is not a one-year thing. Donald Trump's going to throw some money at it. By the way, that money's being paid for by those very farmers because we know that we pay the tariffs. These markets are they're signing contracts with Argentina and Brazil for 10-year contracts. And just the absurdity and it's almost unimaginable that he's got Milei in there giving them $20 billion so that they can undercut us and China can buy their soybeans from them. And now what they've learned is China has learned they can replace our markets, and they have more trusted markets in Argentina and Brazil. And to make this worse is the number of acres that Brazil and Argentina have planted have gone up, which have increased input costs for our farmers here. So it is a perfect storm against them. And then couple that with J.D. Vance sweeping in behind it with his hedge fund buddies buying up land. I haven't seen anything like it since I've been in this. I served on the Ag Committee in Congress for 12 years, having been in farm country in the 1980s. We have got bankruptcy skyrocketing, and our crisis lines are just being mobbed. These folks are it's tough out here.
That point, obviously, in the 1980s, a huge part of there's a bunch of stuff going on. One of the big things was interest rates. Obviously, those interest rates and matter a lot to farmers. Obviously, interest rates pretty high right now, particularly for the kind of credit that farmers use. So that's part of it as well. I want to just stay with that point you made, because this is something I was talking to someone who knows this, an expert in this, and they made this point. These relationships of buyer and seller are durable. It's not quite an on again, off again. If you have a temporary disruption, it's a little like, work from home after COVID, right? It didn't just all go back afterwards. If you have a temporary disruption, you're like, oh, wow, I've got these suppliers in Argentina. I've got these suppliers in Brazil. The switch doesn't necessarily go back once, the issue is resolved.
That's 100%, Chris, and I think that's what people need to understand. Look, in any deal, you're looking for, partners that you can rely on. With Donald Trump's, this manic back and forth, and they're on again, off again, and for his ego, these are contracts. They're thinking about planting for next year. We're in the middle of harvest out here right now. Probably 80% of the beans are in, but the bins are full. There's nowhere to put them. Now these farmers are going to have to pay somebody to store these, hoping that the prices go up. They're already under $10 a bushel. It takes $11 a bushel to break even. So they're losing $100 an acre on their crop right now. And that's assuming next year you get the markets back. Why would the Chinese come back to us again now when they can buy them cheaper from Argentina and Brazil, and they're producing now enough to make up the loss? I mean, Donald Trump, he did this in 2018. We worked hard. And when I say we, these are the farmers with their own checkoff dollars building these markets. And Donald Trump undermining that, just take another example. They sell a lot of these, our agricultural products to the SNAP program, which they're cutting that. Those are $70 billion a year in agricultural products to go to the SNAP program to feed Americans. It is a perfect storm of where these are going to go. undercutting our work on biofuels, of what are we going to do with sustainable aviation fuel and those types of things. So, look, you heard that. Mr. Bartman's a fifth-generation family farm, and they are living day to day on what's going to happen. And as I said, bankruptcies have doubled in the first 7 months. He's got no plan. He's got no plan. So he'll go talk about Columbus Day. He'll go talk about trans athletes in some middle school somewhere because he has no plan. Prices are rising for Americans, and the supply chain. Mr. Bartman told me he had to drive to Sleepy Eye, Minnesota to pick up a part. It was the only part for his tractor that he could find in America, because there's nowhere else to get them in the supply chain. So ag country is in trouble, and I'm hearing it. And I just said there, I saw the White House respond to us and name call like they usually do. Here's what I challenge Alan Trump to do. Find 3 soybean farmers who will stand with you and say this is okay. Just 3, anywhere in America. I challenge you to do that, because you're not going to find them.
Well, we've heard, the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture has talked about this, Republican senators. I mean, there's consensus now. What they're floating as the solution, which is what they did in 2018, the last time a trade war China's initiated, they cut off soybean purchases, and there was basically like welfare checks. There was a bailout, and it was just, they took the cash and they sent checks out, which just seems like an insane thing to me, to kill people's markets and then replace it with checks. I don't even know if you can make people whole, but do you think that works? Like, politically, does that sort of ease the pain, I guess?
No. Well, look, I do believe this. Our folks want markets. They don't want these bailouts. This is a short-term fix. Like I said, this is going to be year after year after year. The irony of this whole thing is, and I continue to say this, of all of Donald Trump's failures and the biggest myth, that this guy understands business. He's an absolute abject failure at business. And this whole policy around this is a failure. And the only way to get off this is to let the markets go back. And the irony, again, is calling Democrats socialist when I am begging for free markets here to allow capitalism to work and allow our markets to go. Donald Trump is the one with government interference. And the damage that he's doing, again, he is strengthening China. He's strengthening, Argentina, make Argentina great again. I guess they can just switch the hats. I don't know. But none of it makes sense. And I'm telling you, and I know the question is, most of these areas are represented by Republicans in Congress who are on a 2-week shutdown, who don't want to hold town halls and don't want to talk about this. These areas can move. I represented an area that voted for Donald Trump by 30 points these last times, but at one point they were voting with me because the policies mattered. So I would just say I'm glad the DNC is putting this out there. I'm glad I'm seeing farm communities stand up and speak out on this, and we're going to need some courage. All of this nonsense could be stopped with a few courageous folks in Congress, Republicans.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, thanks for your time tonight. Really appreciate it.